Hi guys, it's Mrs. Isaacs. Happy Monday. Today we're going to start reading Act 3, Scene 1. We're going to probably take a couple days to do this. You can listen to it over a couple days, or you can just sit here and listen to it all at one time. It's totally up to you. I'm going to do my best to read the parts and so you can follow along. You can either go to the Spark Notes No Fear Shakespeare Romeo and Juliet link that I attached on Google Classroom at the beginning of the unit, or you can follow along in the book if you took the book home with you. If you do not have either of these, you should email me right away so we can get you access to it. We are going to start off today on Act 3, Scene 1. While you're reading along, you can notice the original text is on your left and the translation is on your right. In addition to having this up, you should also have out your Act 3 scene guide. We're going to read Scene 1 today, which takes place in a public place, kind of like how the story started off. Now, before we start, just a little recap of Act 2. The all-important wedding had happened. Romeo and Juliet are now married, and some of you have predicted on your scene guides that the parts that happen next are not going to be too good, that people are going to find out maybe, or that there's going to be another fight. All very good predictions. So let's continue to read so we can find out what happens. I will stop intermittently to emphasize some parts that I really want you to jot down, so you can either have another piece of paper or jot it down on your scene guide sheet. The characters that we're going to meet in this act, in this scene specifically, are Benvolio, Mercutio, Tybalt, Romeo, Lady Capulet, and the prince. So you know already, if we're going to meet the prince, it's probably not for a good reason. Okay, so here we go. Enter Mercutio, Benvolio, Mercutio's page, which is his servant, and others. I pray thee, good Mercutio, let's retire. The day is hot, the Capulets abroad, and if we meet, we shall not escape a brawl, for now, these hot days, is the mad blood stirring. So not is he only talking about the hot temperatures, because it's summerish, it's July. He's also talking about how tempers are running hot between the Capulets and the Montagues too, especially after Tybalt has sent that letter threatening revenge for Romeo's arrival at the party. Okay. Thou art like one of those fellows that, when he enters the confines of a tavern, claps me his sword upon the table and says, God send me no need of thee, and by the operation of the second cup, draws it on the drawer when indeed there is no need. And if you look on the right, it just says, you're like one of those guys who walks into a bar and slams his sword on the table and then says, I pray I never have to use you. I'm sorry if you hear my kids in the background screaming. I have the windows open. So they're just going back and forth. Benvolio is trying to give advice to Mercutio to calm down. Mercutio, knowing his temperament, is pretty hot-headed. He's not wanting it. Benvolio. Am I such a fellow? Come, thou art as hot as Jack in thy mood as any in Italy, and as soon moved to be moody, and as soon moody to be moved. So he says, when you're in a mood to get angry, you find something to get angry about. So he's saying, don't judge me. And what to? Now, Mercutio is going to go into this long thing, pointing out how Benvolio is not perfect himself. Nay, and there were two such, we should have none shortly, for one would kill the other. Why, thou wilt quarrel with a man that hath a hair more or a hair less in his beard than thou hast. Thou wilt quarrel with a man for cracking nuts, having no other reason but because thou hast hazel eyes. Well, I but such an eye would spy out such a quarrel. Thy head is as full of quarrels as an egg is full of meat, and yet thy head hath been beaten as addle as an egg for quarreling. Thou hast quarrelled with a man for coughing in the street, because he hath wakened thy dog that hath lain asleep in the sun. Dost thou not fall out with a tailor for wearing his new doublet before Easter? With another for tying his new shoes with old ribbon? And yet thou wilt tutor me for quarreling? I'm going to turn the page on the bottom there. Sorry for the long pause. Benvolio continues. And I were so apt to quarrel as thou art, any man should buy the fee simple of my life for an hour and a quarter. A fee simple? Oh, simple. So here they're bickering, okay? Again, they're in the public square, and here come Tybalt Petruchio, who is just a friend of Tybalt's, and other Capulets. By my head, here comes the Capulets. By my heel, I care not. So Mercutio's ready to fight. Follow me close, for I speak to them. Gentlemen, good evening. A word with one of you. So first he talks to Petruchio, his friend, and says, follow me, stay close to me. And then he references to Mercutio and Benvolio. But one word with one of us, couple it with something, make it a word and a blow. So what does Mercutio do right there? Mercutio says, you just want one word with us? Put together with something else, make it a word and a blow. So he draws his sword at that time, Mercutio does, and says, I'll give you more than a word, I'll fight you. So Mercutio kind of instigates a little bit there. You shall find me apt enough to that, sir, and you will give me occasion. So he says, now you give me a reason to fight you, let's go. Could you not take some occasion without giving? Mercutio, thou consortest with Romeo. So Tybalt's saying, you're friends with Romeo, so therefore, that's enough reason to fight you. Consort? What dost thou make us minstrels, and thou make minstrels of us? Look to hear nothing but discords. Here's my fiddlestick. Here's that shall make you dance. Zounds, consort. So he says, I'll make you dance, like I'm going to fight you. So they start fighting. Benvolio. What does Benvolio always try to do? He tries to keep the peace. We talk here in the public haunt of men. Either withdraw unto some private place and reason coldly of your grievances, or else depart. Here all eyes gaze on us. So he says, people are gathering. Like we have to go fight about this privately. Why? What has the prince decreed? He has said that anyone who is caught fighting will be killed. So Benvolio, like usual, is trying to keep the peace. Men's eyes were made to look, and let them gaze. I will not budge for no man's pleasure. Aye. And now comes in Romeo. And again, think about what Romeo knows that nobody else but he, Friar Lawrence, and Juliet know. He is on cloud nine. He just married the woman he loves, and he's coming in all happy, and he's inserting himself into a bad situation. Well, peace be with you, sir. Here comes my man. So Tybalt says, this is the guy I'm looking for. But I'll be hanged, sir, if he wear you livery. Marry, go before to field. He'll be your follower. Your worship in that sense may call him man. So Mercutio's he's trying to protect Romeo, and he says, no, he's not your man. Call him your man, but you're going to fight with me. Tybalt says, Romeo, the love I bear thee can afford no better term than this. Thou art a villain. So he says, you're a bad guy. You're a bad guy for coming to a party you are not supposed to be at. Tybalt, the reason that I have to love thee doth much excuse the appertaining rage to such a greeting. Villain am I none. Therefore farewell. I see thou knowest me not. And this is ironic, because look at the translation. Tybalt, I have no reason to love you. That lets me put aside the rage I should feel and excuse the insult. So he's talking about how I can't be mad at you. I can't be angry with you because you're family now. And he kind of says that in a roundabout way. Romeo knows, but Tybalt doesn't know. Remember that Tybalt and Juliet are cousins. Boy, this shall not excuse the injuries that thou hast done me. Therefore, turn and draw. He's like, I don't want to hear any of your words. It's time for you to fight me. So again, Romeo's trying not to cause any problems. He's in love. He realizes he's just married Tybalt's cousin. So he's trying to kind of poo-poo it. But Tybalt is not having it. I do protest I never injured thee, but love thee better than thou canst devise. Meaning, like, there are reasons you don't know why I love you like family. Till thou shalt know the reason of my love. And so, good Capulet, which name I tender as dearly as my own, be satisfied. So again, the ironic part of what we know, that some of the characters don't know is that he is married into the family. Oh, calm, dishonorable, vile submission. Austacata carries it away, and Mercutio draws his sword. Tybalt, you rat catcher, will you walk? So he says, fight me. What wouldst thou have with me? And Tybalt saying to Mercutio, what do you want with me? Good king of cats, nothing but one of your 9 lives that I mean to make bold withal, and as you shall use me hereafter, dry beat the rest of the 8, meaning I'll take all 9 of your lives. Will you pluck your sword out of his pilcher by the ears? Make haste, lest mine be about your ears ere it be out. I am for you, draws his sword, and they start fighting. And Romeo, and you can imagine, picture Romeo and Benvolio upset, trying to intervene. Gentle Mercutio, put thy rapier away. Put your sword away. Come, sir, you're passato. So he thrusts at Tybalt. Mercutio and Tybalt fight. Romeo draws his sword out of protection. Draw, Benvolio, beat down their weapons. So meaning like, let's separate them. Gentlemen, for shame, forbear this outrage. Tybalt, Mercutio, the prince expressly hath forbidden bandying in Verona streets. Hold, Tybalt, good Mercutio. So again, he's saying the prince has already threatened, has already warned that we are going to be executed if we continue to fight. So Romeo tries to break up the fight. Tybalt stabs Mercutio under Romeo's arm. So Romeo steps in between Tybalt and Mercutio. And when he does that, Tybalt goes right kind of behind or in between Romeo's arm and stabs Mercutio. Petruchio says, away, Tybalt, because they're all panicking like, oh no, I just stabbed him. So exit Tybalt, Petruchio, and the other Capulets. Mercutio's in pain. I am hurt. A plague o' both your houses. I am sped. Is he gone and hath nothing? Means I've been hurt. And he curses the Capulets and the Montagues. And he says, did he get away unharmed? And Benvolio, what? Are thou hurt? I, a scratch. Marry, 'tis enough. Where's my page? Go, villain, fetch a surgeon. So he knows. He's trying to first shake it off and be like, no, it's just a scratch. But he knows it's a bad wound. So he says, hurry up and go get a doctor. So Mercutio's servant leaves. And Romeo's holding on to Mercutio, saying, courage, man. The hurt cannot be much. It means you can't be hurt that badly. And this is Mercutio's speech. No, 'tis not so deep as a well, nor so wide as a church door, but 'tis enough. 'Twill serve, meaning it doesn't matter if it's too big, it's a bad one. Ask for me tomorrow, and you shall find me a grave man. And grave man, obviously, meaning a dead man. I am peppered. I warrant for this world. O plague of both your houses. That is a famous line in this play. It's important to know that Mercutio is the one who says this. He's mad. Zounds, a dog, a rat, a mouse, a cat to scratch a man to death. A braggart, a rogue, a villain that fights by the book of arithmetic. Why, the devil came you between us. I was hurt under your arm. And if you look to the right, he's just going on about how he's so mad that this fight has happened. And he says, why did you come in between us, Romeo? So he's kind of like blaming Romeo. Like, I could have had a clear fight with Tybalt, but you got in my way. And because you blocked me, I was stabbed. And Romeo says, I thought all for the best. So, he was trying to break up the fight. He was trying to make it better. Help me into some house, Benvolio, or I shall faint. A plague on both your houses. They have made worms meat of me. I have it, and soundly to your houses. Meaning I'm done. He curses both the families. Mercutio and Benvolio leave. And then Romeo's left there by himself. And he says, this gentleman, the prince's near ally, my very friend hath got his mortal hurt in my behalf. My reputation stained with Tybalt's slander. Tybalt, that an hour hath been my kinsman. O sweet Juliet, thy beauty hath made me effeminate, and in my temper softened valor's steel. This is an important part from Romeo. And if you look to the right, it says, This gentleman Mercutio, a close relative of the prince and my dear friend, was killed while defending me from Tybalt's slander. And Tybalt, who has been my cousin for an hour, okay, because he's married Juliet. And then he's like, oh, Juliet, your beauty made me weak for a woman. So he's kind of mad and he's frustrated. And then Benvolio comes back. Oh, Romeo, brave Mercutio is dead. The gallant spirit hath aspired the clouds, which too untimely here discorn the earth. So meaning he has died too young. He has left us. This day's black fate on more days doth depend. This but begins the woe, others must end. So this also foreshadows something. Look on the right-hand side. The future will be affected by today's terrible events. Today is the start of a terror that will end in the days ahead. So he knows nothing good is going to come out of this situation. So Tybalt comes back. Here comes the furious Tybalt back again. And how do you think Romeo is feeling? His friend was Tybalt just killed his friend. Alive and triumphant Mercutio slain? Away to heaven, respective lenity and fire-eyed fury be my conduct now. So he says, enough with mercy. I'm going to get back. I'm going to get revenge. Now, Tybalt, take the villain back again. That late thou gavest me for Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, staying for thine to keep him company, meaning you're going to join Mercutio. Either thou or I or both must go with him. So he says, bring it on. We're going to fight, and either we're both going to die and join Mercutio, or you're going to die or I'm going to die, he says. But something is one of us or both of us are going to die. Thou wretched boy, thou didst consort him here, shall with him hence. So he says, you hung out with him here and you're going to go to heaven with him. So he says, you're going to be the one who dies. Romeo says, this shall determine that. So he says, this fight will determine who goes with Mercutio to death. They fight and Tybalt falls. As you see, it says he dies. Romeo, away, be gone. The citizens are up and Tybalt slain. Stand not amazed. The prince will doom thee death if thou art taken. Hence be gone away. So he says, if the prince finds you here, you're dead, man. Get out of here. Oh, I am fortune's soul, means I have bad luck. Why dost thou stay? Why are you waiting? He says. And Romeo runs off panic. Remember, just a little while ago, he came in a happy, newlywed man. Now he's leaving, just killing his new cousin. So all of a sudden, citizens start gathering around these two dead bodies. Which way ran he that killed Mercutio? Tybalt, that murderer, which way ran he? There lies Tybalt. Up, sir, go with me, I charge thee in the prince's name, obey. So somebody tries to get Tybalt up, but obviously he is dead. So enter Prince Montague, Capulet, Lady Montague, Lady Capulet, and other people. So people start forming this huge crowd in this marketplace, in this public place. And the prince comes in. Where are the vile beginners of this fray? Meaning, who started this fight? Oh, noble prince, I can discover all the unlucky manage of this fatal brawl. Meaning, I'll tell you everything about this deadly fight. There lies the man slay by young Romeo, that slew thy kinsman, brave Mercutio. So he says, Romeo killed Tybalt because Tybalt killed Mercutio. And Lady Capulet is upset. Tybalt, my cousin, oh, my brother's child, oh, prince, oh, cousin, husband, oh, the blood is spilled of my dear kinsman. Princess, thou art true, for blood of ours shed blood of Montague. Oh, cousin, oh, cousin. Benvolio, who began this bloody fray? Who started it? Benvolio says, Tybalt here slain, whom Romeo's hand did slay, meaning Tybalt started it because, and so Romeo was defending himself and killed Tybalt. Romeo that spoke him fair bade him bethink how nice the quarrel was and urged with all your high displeasure. So he's saying Romeo tried to tell Tybalt that he didn't want to fight because it was your wishes, but he didn't listen. All this uttered with gentle breath, calm look, knees humbly bowed, could not take truce with unruly spleen of Tybalt deaf to peace, meaning Tybalt didn't want to be peaceful, but that he tilts with piercing steel at bold Mercutio's breast, who all his hot turns deadly point to point, and with a martial scorn with one hand beats cold death aside, and with the other sends it back to Tybalt, whose dexterity retorts it. Romeo, he cries aloud, hold, friends, friends, part. And swifter than his tongue, his agile arm beats down their fatal points, and twixt them rushes underneath whose arm, an envious thrust from Tybalt, hit the life of stout Mercutio, and then Tybalt fled. So Benvolio was simply just recapping the fight for the prince. But by and by comes back to Romeo, who had but newly entertained revenge, meaning he was mad and wanted revenge for Mercutio's death. And to it they go like fighting. For ere I could draw to part them was stout Tybalt slain, meaning before I could get to break it up, Tybalt was dead. And as he fell, did Romeo turn and fly. This is the truth, or let Benvolio die. He is a kinsman to the Montague. Affection makes him false. He speaks not true. So she's saying, you can't believe what he has to say. He's a Montague. Some 20 of them fought in his black strife, and all those 20 could but kill one life. I beg for justice, which thou, prince, must give. Romeo slew Tybalt. Romeo must not live. So Lady Capulet demands Romeo's death. And the prince says, Romeo slew him. He slew Mercutio. Who now the price of his dear blood doth owe? Like, who shall now pay the price for Mercutio's life? Because Tybalt's already dead. Lord Montague says, not Romeo, prince, he was Mercutio's friend. His fault condolences, but what the law should end, the life of Tybalt. So he says, let's call it a wash, because Tybalt killed Mercutio, so Romeo had to take Tybalt's life. He would have been dead anyways because he was the one who killed Mercutio. And this is the prince's creed. And for that offense, immediately we do exile him hence. So he doesn't say he must die, but he says that he must be kicked out of Verona, which is kind of big too. I have an interest in your heart's proceeding, meaning I have my Mercutio, he's family, he is dead now. My blood for your rude brawls doth lie a-bleeding, but I'll immerse you with so strong a fine that you shall all repent the loss of mine. I will be deaf to pleading and excuses, nor tears nor prayers shall purchase out abuses, therefore use none. Let Romeo hence in haste, else when he's found, that hour is his last. Bear hence his body and attend our will. Mercy, but murders, pardoning those that kill. So that's an important decree. He said, if you look on the right, it says, for the crime, Romeo is exiled from Verona. And he said, Mercutio is my relative, and now he's dead. I'll punish you harshly that you'll regret causing me this loss. Tell Romeo to leave the city immediately, or he will be killed. Take away his body and do what I say. And he thinks he's showing mercy by not executing him. So then they exit. And that is the end of scene 1.